eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light in our galaxy. Everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.
What the hell is going on, everybody? How are we all? Happy Friday. It's Friday pretty much everywhere in the world right now, whether it's Friday night, Friday morning. I hope you're having a good time. We're about to have a really fun show. So I'm basically going to be giving you guys a presentation on why it seems pretty obvious to me that aliens live under the ground. And I'm sure a lot of you guys agree with me because this isn't new stuff. Okay, so we're going to be looking at a lot of, well, we're going to start the show with some clips to basically just butter your bread, you know, prime you up a little bit, just a little bit of foreplay. Okay, it's a little bit of foreplay. I'm going to get you in the mood. We've got some clips, and then we're going to jump over to Google Earth, and we're going to go around the world together. We are literally going around the world together, all of us together in the chat, which, by the way, there was over 100 of you absolute freaks just sitting in here waiting for the show to start. So thank you very much. Anne McPherson put in $3 before the show even started. Thank you, Anne. You're an absolute legend and a freak. So I think we'll just get straight into the show. This one might, I may end up deleting this stream when it's done and editing it a little bit and then re-uploading it as a video. So if you tune in late or you happen to miss any of it, that may be happening. But I think that's really the formalities out the way. Let's talk about why aliens live underground. And we're going to start over here first. Suki is having a night off, so she doesn't need to be there. She doesn't work Friday nights. It's her NA. That's cool. I'll do it myself. So the idea of aliens living underground, right? This isn't a new theory. In fact, a paper was written about it recently called the Cryptoterrestrial Hypothesis. And as you would have seen on the thumbnail, that's basically what we're talking about. But the term cryptoterrestrial isn't just one thing. It's a pretty broad term. So I'm just going to read you a couple of tiny bits from this paper, and then we'll get into the clips. So this is titled A Cryptoterrestrial Hypothesis, a Case for Scientific Openness to Concealed Earthly Explanation for Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena. Just basically making an argument for the fact that these aliens, I think a better word is probably non-human intelligence, are not from Zeta Reticuli. They're not from, you know, somewhere else. They're from here. They've always been here. And that's probably what the explanation is for a lot of these ancient sort of religious divine encounters. Okay, these are just people experiencing the phenomenon the same way we do today, but our cultural lens has shifted and changed, so we just describe it differently. But everyone's experiencing the same shit, essentially. Now, this paper was written by Tim Lomas, who is a psychology research scientist at Harvard, Brendan Case, associate director for research at Harvard. By the way, how do you know if someone's gone to Harvard? Can I get some answers in the chat? How do you know if someone went to Harvard? And the final author, which most of you will probably be familiar with, is Michael Masters, professor of biology and anthropology at Montana Tech University. The answer, how do you know if someone goes to Harvard, is they'll fucking tell you. That's right, Rambro. Yeah, they'll tell you. So we don't need to worry about that. Anyway, so there's a few things here I'm going to read, but I want to start off at the end because the conclusion here kind of sums up what the sort of different avenues of the cryptoterrestrial hypothesis is. So to be precise, the material above actually contains 4 different cryptoterrestrial hypotheses. All would involve entities existing in stealth during recent human history and possibly even before the emergence of Homo sapiens in some cases, such as the CTH2, but differ in the nature of beings in question. Okay, so these, I'm going to read you the 4 different types here. Type 1 is human cryptoterrestrials, a technologically advanced ancient human civilization that was largely destroyed long ago, example by a flood, but continued to exist in remnant form. Yeah, I like it. Breakaway civilization of ancient proportions we're talking about there. Number 2, hominid or theropod cryptoterrestrials, a technologically advanced non-human civilization consisting of some terrestrial animal which evolved to live in stealth, example underground, perhaps a hominid, or alternatively, here we go, a species much more distantly related to us, e.g. descendants of unknown or intelligent dinosaurs. Intelligent dinosaurs. I think we have a word for that, and it starts with R, and it rhymes with yeptilians. And number 3, former extraterrestrial or extratempestrial cryptoterrestrials, extraterrestrial aliens or our intertemporal descendants who arrived on Earth from elsewhere in the cosmos or from the human future, respectively, and concealed themselves in stealth. So this one, we're talking about time-traveling humans here. And the 4th one, magical cryptoterrestrials, entities which are less like homegrown aliens and more like earthbound angels, relating to the world inhabited by humans in ways that, at least from our present perspective, are less technological than magical, who are known in European languages by names like fairies, elves, and nymphs. There we go. All right, so 2 little bits here I'll read before we move on from the paper, because obviously no one likes reading papers for too long. Relatedly, so this is talking about the idea of aliens and bases on the moon. Relatedly, some NASA whistleblowers, such as Carl Wolf and Ken Johnston, claimed that even more conclusive photographic evidence of potential bases exist. And Carl Wolf, we saw him testify the other day when we looked at the Stephen Greer press conference. But NASA has actively sought to deny, suppress, and conceal such information. Finally, there are the views of the actual Apollo astronauts, and although none of them have said it in public that they've encountered such bases, but many of them have been vocal about their beliefs in NHI, most famously Edgar Mitchell, who was on the record in 2008 saying, yes, there have been ET visitations, there have been crashed craft and bodies recovered. We are not alone in the universe. They have been coming here for a long time. And Edgar Mitchell was the guy who threatened to punch Buzz Aldrin, by the way. Sorry, not Buzz Aldrin, Bart Sibrel in the moon landing hoax deep dive that we did. And now this is the last little bit here, and then we'll get to these super chats. So this is just a little part here talking about the traces of underground civilizations. Wait, is this? Sorry. No, we're going to talk about the cryptoterrestrial hypothesis. This is what we're going to talk about. In essence, as per all ultra-terrestrial hypothesis, the cryptoterrestrial suggests that NHI responsible for the UAPs may already be present in Earth's environment in some sense, as opposed to having an extraterrestrial explanation. However, rather than existing in other dimensions per the interdimensional hypothesis or other times per the extratempestrial hypothesis, they are present in a relatively more conventional sense, i.e. within current standard space-time dimensions, but are nevertheless hidden in some way, such as living underground. Now, I want to just make a little caveat there because we are going to kind of explore the whole idea of interdimensional a little bit today, because I think, and I've said this before, when we talk about the phenomenon, I think we are talking about a lot of different things. I don't think there's just one easy answer to this. I think there is probably a lot of answers that all kind of fit together as working pieces here. But today, mainly underground, but also a little bit of interdimensional is what we're going to be talking about. And I am excited. So before we get into those clips, Earthman put in $10 and said the Naga live underground according to Hinduism. Yep, they certainly do. There is a form of reptiles in every creation story. Okay? Every creation story talks about intelligent, serpent-like beings. And to me, that sounds like the Yeptilians. Maka with $20 for all the weirdos that contribute with loyalty. You are one of them, sir. Thank you very much. Absolute legend. I hope you're doing well, brother. Rusty has gifted a membership. Thank you very much, Rusty. Absolute legend. So has Rambro. The boys are just on today. It is Friday and you can feel it. Make sure you say thank you if you're the lucky one that got that membership. And enjoy the members-only content as well. We get a little bit raw over in the After Dark episodes. Andy has chucked in $10, $10. Why? Because I can. You legend. No, Andy, you are the legend. Thank you very much. Long-time supporter. I appreciate you, bro. And Stevie is dropping some real money. Stevie's just put in $80 and says, just wanted to hop on and leave some cash while I'm in an Uber heading to a rave. Oh, Stevie, can you swing by mine? Stevie, swing by mine, pick me up. This show can wait. Where are we going, brother? Take me with you. Seriously though, where are you going? I want to know because it sounds like a good time. Great content as always. Thank you very much, bro. And Bleak put in $5. All of the above, I think, exists. All the love to the weirdos. Thank you very much, guys. I always say it. This community is absolutely goated. Unmatched generosity. The love is real. And I'm excited, and it sounds like you guys are too. So let's jump back over here and let's get into these clips. So I thought it would make a lot of sense to begin with what's topical and what's relevant right now, which is Ana Paulina Luna, the most suspiciously sexy woman in the world. Okay? The woman who happens to be heading the task force for the most covered up and secretive topic in history happens to also be the most attractive woman who has ever shown an interest in politics. Now, that could be coincidence number 7,615, and I'm open to that, okay? But let's try and keep it, let's stay objective here. Don't get led by the nose. You've fallen into the trap. No, look, I've given her a bit of shit for that. Not that that's anything to give her shit for, but I do say that, it is kind of weird that she is very attractive and is at the head of this task force. But after watching what I've seen, I haven't watched the whole thing, but I've seen quite a bit of the Joe Rogan podcast. And I must say, she does come across as very genuine. So, I never talk in absolutes anyway, because I just don't know. But it's fun to joke about. It is fun to joke about. But if I'm being serious, I'm probably leaning to not, I don't think she's being dishonest. No, I don't. So let's take a listen to this clip.
What I can also tell you is based on our interviews, and this has been something that you can go back and watch with the congressional hearings, but I was actually able to ask some of the witnesses, what are these things? And they keep saying interdimensional. And then when you talk about the interdimensional aspect of, are these things pre-existing, maybe outside of what we currently know as our own dimension? But there's definitely something that I can tell you with confidence that exists that we don't know how to explain currently.
So when you say that it operates outside our understanding of physics, what specifically are you saying?
I guess break it down in simple terms is that I think that some of the tech that exists, that whatever these things have, these energy things have.
Energy things? What do you mean?
Well, they call them interdimensional beings. I think that they can actually operate through the time spaces that we currently have. And that's not something that I came up with on my own. That's based on stuff that we've seen. That's based on information that we've been told. And then also, too, I think that there's this historical aspect of, this gets into the deeper theories and concepts of religion. And I think the history that we currently know.
Rambro says, holy crap, she can talk. I never noticed. Yep, there are a lot of thirsty men in the chat. Let's take some deep breaths, guys. Let's take some deep breaths and keep it together, okay? So there you go. There's Ana Paulina Luna speaking about, that she's seen evidence or spoken to very credible people who suggest that these things stuff is real. She believes in, along the lines of angels and things like that, which, I think she's right. I do think she's right. Brad James chucked in $10. Didn't say anything, but Brad, you're the man. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Let's get on to the next one. Here's an old one of Danny the Maltese Sheehan talking about bases underground and under the ocean.
Bases here on our planet, many of which are located high.
For anyone who doesn't know, public interest and constitutional lawyer for the specializing in the American Constitution.
High in the desolate areas in the mountains, where very few people ever go, and beneath the sea. There's a major base in the Pacific that we're virtually certain exists off Baja, between Baja and Guadalupe Island, potentially beneath the ocean floor. This has been monitored. We have hundreds of videos of the vehicles coming and going from that location and plunging into the sea and going down into and coming from this base. This is extraordinarily important for everyone to understand. Very importantly, there is some percentage inside our national security state apparatus that knows this to be true.
Bilbo Baggins. Yep.
Basic.
Yep. And he's got the knowledge to back it up too. And, you know, that hair is just phenomenal as well. James Boyden says, Luna went up in my standing. Great JR episode. How she got to this point and is now fighting the good fight. Yeah, I agree. I think she does come across as in it for the right reasons. So there you go. There's Danny, the Maltese Sheehan, talking about videos of these things coming in and out of these bases in the water and in the mountains. And I actually have some footage of that happening that I'm going to be showing once we start our trip around the world. Next clip, though, we have a very short one of Gary Nolan, another Stanford professor, talking to Jordan Peterson.
You started to become interested in unidentified aerial phenomena.
Somebody representing the CIA and an aerospace company showing up at my office at Stanford showed me their credentials and said, we need your help looking at patients who've had harm done to them. And then a small subset of them said that they'd been in proximity to things that you would call a UFO. I thought it was a joke at the beginning.
Let us know, if you would, what the hell you think is going on.
That there's something non-human here, and it's been here for a long time.
I imagine it's put a bit of a bump into your life. I mean, maybe one that's mostly interesting, but still, to call it strange is to barely scrape the surface.
If something is here, it's likely been here longer than humans have even been civilized.
Yep, I would agree with you, Gary. I think it has been here a long time. It's what makes the most sense to me. But I will say, remember, I think we could be talking about multiple things here. I think it's likely that something has been here for a very long time. And I also think it's possible that something may have found us when we split the atom and let off the first nuclear weapon. Perhaps. I think a lot of these things could possibly fit together, and that is why disclosure is so complicated, because it's not just one story they have to be like, oh yeah, aliens are real. Sorry, should have told you 100 years ago. It's going to be like, yeah, there's 100 years of lies that like there's a whole 100 years worth of storyline. Because like, I mean, think about how much our news cycles change in just a couple of years. There's probably like 100 years worth of developing storyline with potentially multiple species, interdimensional interference. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot. Toxic Fart says, for $2, you wake me up at 6:30 a.m. with no Suki cam. Hey, don't blame me. She NAs Friday nights, and you know, I need my casual staff. I just, you know, they do it. My hands are tied. I can't let her go, and I can't force her to work either. So next one we have Navajo John. So this is a Native American park ranger talking about his experience in the American Southwest, which is where we are going to be visiting first on our trip around the world.
So what have you seen?
I've seen all kinds of craft, everything from cigar shapes, wedge shapes, just you name it, saucers.
So you've seen the classic flying saucer?
Oh, yeah, many times.
So what do you think, sir? Do you think that these are non-human entities, or do you think that the American government's maybe got something burrowed in a hill here somewhere?
I think the American government is very, very interested in the technology. And what we're starting to see, what the evidence leads to, and what we came up with in 2006 was the idea that these things all involve dimensional travel.
Really?
And that...
that's very interesting to me, because that's what David Grush told me, the intelligence officer who spoke to me in 2023. And he said that he thinks perhaps it's interdimensional. So it's interesting to hear you say that.
Yeah, we came to that conclusion on our own because we started looking at the evidence. The evidence of Bigfoot tracks that went for a mile and disappeared in trackable ground, almost like it was jerked up into the air.
So what do you think is happening? If there is something like cryptid creatures, Bigfoots, I mean, this is the stuff of fairy tales, paranormal fantasy. You're saying it's real and there might be an interdimensional explanation.
We have had natives that told us that these things, as they were watching, disappeared, just faded out. we've had UFOs come and just pop into existence.
Look who decided to come into work. Yep. It's the girl. Let's say hello to her. Oh, I don't have your chat up. Sorry. But there she is. Yep, she knows she's late. Look at that face. She knows she's late for work. Very cute. So there you go. Navajo John from the southwest area of the United States talking about interdimensional. And this is exactly what we hear about at places like Skinwalker Ranch, Bradshaw Ranch. Okay, these places that are potentially on the ley lines where the veil perhaps seems to be thinner, and they seem to be just a hotspot for this paranormal activity, for activity that seems to be interdimensional. Things come and things go. As in, like, they literally disappear. But we're going to finish off our little bit of foreplay here with our final clip. And this is one of my favorites, Phil Schneider. And if you've seen my video on him, you will have seen this clip. But this is Phil talking about what you can see on the thumbnail, that this has been known about since 1908. Now, this is just a little bit of, you know, totally anecdotal testimony. There's no evidence for this. But I think Phil Schneider was pretty on the money. I know a lot of people disagree, but let's take a listen to this.
1947 is what the public has been told.
By the way, if anyone doesn't know, this was 1994 or 1995 that this speech was made. And about a year later, he was found strangled in his home.
Something crashed in the backyard in New Mexico, a place called Roswell, New Mexico. Unfortunately, that's what the public's been told. The military's known about the alien question for the better part of 70 years, and they first saw their glimpse of what was going on as early as 1909 in the American Southwest. Now, Army cavalry evidently were chasing some bandits, and they entered this cave. They were holed up in a cave, and what they found in there was flying discs and little gray guys and all kinds of weird things, and they didn't know how to explain that, and they wrote them down as best they could, and it's been in secret archives ever since.
It's pretty crazy, right, to think about that. 1908, chasing bandits on horses. That's how it sounds like to me, that they're chasing bandits through the Wild West and ended up in a cave where they found some wild shit. I mean, who knows? But I feel like where we're about to go first on our little trip around the world might add a little bit to that. Before we get on the plane, though, Stevie has put in $8 and says, "Oh, look, Mr. I got booted and was replaced with Dolan Man." Sir, I have no idea what you mean, but I appreciate it. And the cookie with $5 says, "When aliens dropped off Peashore, they told me to take her to a specific underground cave for an oil change." Well, I hope you're looking after Peashore. Hope she's not getting too fat. I hope you're doing well, man. Thank you for the support. So let's, I've actually got a new screen for us today. Yeah, look at this. Something different. So as you can see, first of all, the world is not flat because it's clearly displayed as a sphere here in Google Earth. And obviously Google would never lie to us. So let's begin let's go Arizona. So we're going to be doing all of this on the fly. I've obviously got a little list here. Actually, I'm going to put this over here that we're working from. All right. Is this going to work? Yeah. So I think okay, let's talk about the Grand Canyon first of all. All right. Let me get in here. Where are we? Grand Canyon. We're somewhere around here, aren't we? I better know my shit because I'm traveling here soon. I don't want to get lost. Monument Valley. Yeah, we're in the Grand Canyon, but I'm looking specifically for... Give me... Is it Tower or Temple? It's Tower. The Tower of Ra. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy that in the American Grand Canyon... there is a place called the Tower of Ra. And around it, we have the Shiva Temple. We've also got... Where are they? Actually, I made a graphic for this. Maybe we can pull that up. We have all of these strange places that are named after places in ancient Egypt. And let me just pull this up quickly. Let's take a look at this. You can actually see them here. In the bottom right-hand side of this graphic, you can see we've got the Tower of Set. We've got Horus Temple, Tower of Ra, Osiris Temple, Isis Temple, and a whole bunch of other places. I mean, this is just in one graphic, but this is all here around the Grand Canyon. Now, I'm going to do my best to use these 3D navigations. But let's talk about this quickly. So this is, I mean, was made pretty famous in a Y-Files episode. This is a copy of the article from the Arizona Gazette in 1909. Very close to the year that Phil Schneider just mentioned, right? 1909, where an explorer named G. Kincaid was going down the river, the Colorado River, in a wooden boat, exploring, and he says that he found a sort of cave system that was full of hieroglyphics and Egyptian symbolism, and even like places that looked like they were set up for ceremonies and, you know, worship. Now, of course, if you just Google it, the first thing you're going to get is the Arizona Gazette hoax. So, you know, take it with a grain of salt. But I think when you look at these things individually, it's very easy to be like, oh, it's just a scam. Oh, it's just a scam. But when you look at a video like this today, and I group up every single one, the idea that they're all just scams and hoaxes, that starts to feel like you're more of a conspiracy theorist to me. If you think all of this is a hoax, that's pretty paranoid. Like, I think you're the conspiracy theorist at this point. If you think all of this is fake, that's pretty tinfoil hat of you, I must say. But let's also, like, given that we know now that in this area of the United States, of the Grand Canyon, is literally named after all of these Egyptian gods, and then we look that out the front of the Capitol building, there is an obelisk, just like in Egypt, also one out the front of the Vatican. We notice that Thoth, the god of wisdom, also known as Hermes Trismegistus, is carved into the door of the library of the Capitol building. That's weird, because you're America, you're not Egypt. And then you've got a pyramid on the dollar bill. That's weird too, because you're America, you're not Egypt, but you still have a lot of symbolism. And then we get to the NRO launch patches, okay? National Reconnaissance Office. This is the agency that David Grush worked for. You've got an Anubis on your badge. That's the Egyptian god of the underworld, or the god of death. You've also got more pyramids. You've got this Eye of Horus. You've got this hand gripping the world. And, you know, these are just 3 patches. I've looked at a lot of these in previous videos. I'm sure you guys have seen more when I've looked at them. But, I mean, you know, is this all just a coincidence? Well, if you think that, like I said, I think maybe you're the conspiracy theorist at that point. Now, let's go over to... Oh, we're flattened out here. Bear with me while I deal with 3D controls, by the way. Let's go over to LA very quickly. Because here in LA, I'm going to put LA just here while I read this to you, because this is another very interesting article, and I might read the whole thing. This isn't, I have 2 copies of this, and one of them has the year that it's from on it, and I didn't put that one in. But I'm from memory. I'm going to say this is a similar era. This is early 1900s, okay? Lizard People's Catacomb City hunted. Engineer sinks shaft under Fort Moore Hill to find maze of tunnels and priceless treasures of legendary inhabitants. Busy Los Angeles, although little realizing it's in the hustle and bustle of modern existence, stands above a lost city of catacombs filled with incalculable treasure and imperishable records of a race of humans further advanced intellectually and scientifically than even the highest type of present-day peoples. In the belief of G. Warren Schufelt, geophysical mining engineer now engaged in an attempt to wrest from the lost city. Sorry, this is kind of blurry and small for me, but I think that says wrest from the lost city deep in the earth below Fort Moore Hill, the secrets of the lizard people of legendary fame in the medicine lodges of the American Indian, which we're going to get to in a minute. So firmly does the Shufel and little staff of assistants believe that a maze of catacombs and priceless golden tablets are to be found beneath downtown Los Angeles that the engineer and his aides have already driven a shaft 250 feet into, and then it's cut off, and then it kind of goes to another column, which, yeah, I probably should have put the other version in here, to be honest. But this is a real thing. You can look it up. This is about tunnel systems found underneath LA. Why they're alluding specifically to lizard people, I'm not 100% sure. Probably need to read the full article for that, but I just thought I would include it in here because it's all part of the data set as to why this southern western part of America is so interesting. And also, while we're here, let's just take note of like the aesthetic of the surface, okay? This sort of red, barren, desert-like surface here is very interesting, and we're gonna keep coming back to this throughout the show. And what we're gonna do before we keep going, actually, I'll just catch up on Super Chat quickly. Stevie, again, has put in $8 and said, Ross Coulthart was booted from the podcast. Bryce Zabel need to know and replace with Richard Dolan. Endless rumors as to why. Thank you for clarifying, Stevie. Yes, I understand what you're saying now. I don't know why, but I do know that when Ross made his statements about the Tic Tac being made by Lockheed Martin, Bryce Zabel said, can we do a follow-up show on that where you kind of explain that a little bit more? And Ross apparently said no. But he did, but then he did go into it deeper on News Nation and stuff, so I don't know. Maybe Bryce just felt that was weird. And also, Ross is a super busy guy, and maybe Bryce just wanted a more regular like partner, co-host. So it may not be like as sinister as people think. It could literally just be like a better business decision for Bryce. And also, who is complaining about seeing more of Richard Dolan? I mean, not me. Richard Dolan is a fan favorite here on Polarity. We love Richard Dolan. So, you know, I think this is actually a positive. I'm looking forward to seeing Dolan more because we already see enough of Ross. He's everywhere. And I enjoy it, but, you know, give someone else a go, Ross. And Toxic Fart for $5 says, for movie night, I suggest Cowboys vs. Aliens with Daniel Craig, Olivia Wilde, and Harrison Ford. The title is lame, but the movie is good. Thank you very much, sir. I'll add it to the list. Not tonight, though, but definitely I would like to watch it. So we will do that. Now, just before we get out of the Southwest, we're obviously overlooking, you know, like the Navajo, the Hopi. A lot of Native American tribes are from this area that we're overlooking pretty much right here. Look, you can see Monument Valley and all of that. And look how red that dirt is. That dirt is rich with story. Let's listen to this, okay? If you've seen my old video on the Hopi, or maybe you've seen the Hopi prophecy video by yourself, you might remember this clip. It's a short one, but it's going to be relevant a little bit later in the show. So let's just take a listen to the a little clip here from the Hopi prophecy, which is...
That is what they say will happen at this period by the people that has...
Sorry, just to give context, he's talking about, you know, the people who are meant to come and purify the land, people who are meant to get rid of evil, get rid of humanity spiraling into a world of like technological doomsday and staying more aligned with spirituality. But he's saying people need to come and purify it. And I think that's probably enough to lead into what he's saying.
This symbol and the man with red cap and red coat, they will come from east direction, from where the sun rises. And they will come here quickly. And they will have something to paralyze all man-made machinery. Everything come to a standstill. All power will go out. All man-made machinery will come to a standstill. And we will be helpless when they just come and take it over. And this is what they will happen to by those people that are coming from the east direction. Now, if those people are commissioned by the Great Spirit to do that for the Great Spirit.
So he's talking about, like, you know, you can't see it in this clip, but if you've seen the video, he's referring to like the swastika symbol. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. And another symbol saying the people who bear this symbol are going to come back with the man in the red hat, which is a weird thing, obviously, because a lot of people are saying the man in the red hat sounds a lot like Trump. you know, his whole Make America Great Again campaign, and that there is this prophecy. This is filmed in like 1970s, by the way, but it's an old prophecy, and they talk about a man in a red cap is going to come and try to purify the land. Now, obviously, you know, you talk about Trump and people have an aneurysm. I don't really care. Politics are quite fake and gay. We all know that. But it's an interesting connection. But what he's saying here is if those people fail, and he says they're going to come from the east. He says if those people fail, this is what's going to happen. And this is the interesting part.
If we can't clean it ourselves here, and if they fail, then the Great Spirit said there are another people coming from west direction.
Here we go.
They'll be coming here for a long time. They're just taking this time. Slowly they're coming and building up more power, more people, more invention, and all that, and they just kept coming. If these people doesn't come here to purify this for the Great Spirit, then this one will come. And they said when that happened, don't get them on the housetop and watch, because those people are coming from the west direction. There'll be millions of people coming up on the west coast like ants crawling up on the land.
If these people from the east, the man in the red hat, if they fail to purify the land, he's saying the others will come from the west. From the west. And, you know, when you look at the west of America, there's not much there. In fact, it's the Pacific Ocean. Okay? The biggest ocean body. I know you guys can't see it properly. The biggest ocean body in the entire world. Okay? If you look at the globe this way, half the earth is just ocean. The place that a lot of these UFOs potentially come from. Okay? The place that a lot of these UFOs potentially come from. And he's saying that if these people fail to purify the land, the man in the red hat and whatever, that from the west, they are going to crawl up onto the land like ants. Ants. I want you guys to remember that for me. Remember ants. Okay? We're going to come back to that.
And they will have no mercy for anyone. They'll be very cruel and severe. They're not going to ask questions. They're just going to whip everything as they come. They're going looking for someone that will hold on to this spiritual path here. They're going to do that. This is what they said is going to happen. But these two purifiers on both sides are coming to this continent here where we started from.
So there you go. If these people fail from the west, you're going to get millions crawl up onto the earth like ants. And they're not going to ask questions. They're going to whip people into shape, and it's not going to be pretty, is essentially what he's saying. Now, okay, so let's keep looking at this map here. We're going to keep moving. So I mentioned before how the surface of the land is kind of interesting here. I mean, you look at the east, it's far more green, but in this sort of like desolate red dirt, desert-like area is where a lot of this paranormal activity, UFOs and secret bases and all this kind of stuff is sort of like centralized around, right? Well, when you follow this trail down into Mexico, right towards the tip here, and wait, what? The tip? Right towards the tip. If let me search it. I always get this wrong. Popocatépetl. Popocatépetl volcano is right in the tip of the red dirt. It's right on the tip. Yep. So here we are. Okay, we can go 3D. Popocatépetl volcano. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys know this place. This is, and we can play this clip here. This is a volcano that is famous for seeing objects flying into it. This is a camera. What you can see here is footage of a camera that is basically, I guess, filming this volcano 24/7. And the amount of footage and clips that have come out of this stuff, and sorry, like have come out of and into the volcano is what I'm trying to say, is wild. This specific volcano, I don't know why this one, but I also don't think it's the only volcano. I think this is something that is probably more common than we realize and at multiple volcanoes around the world. But I think this one is so steeped in strangeness that they literally have like webcams going 24/7 documenting this stuff. So again, this is all from the same volcano. You've got that first clip where it looks like a cigar shape, which, you know, cigar-shaped ships is something we hear a lot in ufology. And I think it's important to think about as well that like if you saw the typical like flying saucer on the side, it might kind of look like a bit of a cigar shape, maybe. Also, when things are moving so quickly, they stretch on the camera. You get weird camera artifacts. Things can look like shapes that they're actually not. But I think what is clear is that there is like, if we don't want to put the label on it, I think what is clear is that like this volcano is steeped in anomalous activity. There's no doubt about that. Now, some of the quality of these videos is obviously like a bit subpar, but some of them are a bit better. But again, I think altogether, the point is a lot of weird shit happens around this volcano. So that's Popocatépetl in Mexico. And again, this will be the last time I say it, when we look at the stretch of this sort of barren red land, this thing seems to be right on the tip. So speaking, actually, while we're in America, while we're in the Americas, let's go south, because there's a whole lot of strange shit going on in South America too. And given the great documentary that just came out the other day by Jesse Michaels about Peru, probably a good place to start. And look at that. Look at that. What do you know? The whole continent that is so lush and green, but where there are multiple stories of aliens and weird shit, it's not very green at all, actually. Now, that could be coincidence 7,491, but it also couldn't be. It also couldn't be. So let's take a, I don't know if this clip has, okay, well, look, first of all, we've obviously got Nazca mummies when we're talking about Peru. That's a big one. But we've also got a little clip here from Jesse. Now, I don't know if I left the sound on with this. No, I didn't. So we can just, we can talk while this plays. Let me unlock it. So again, we're talking about the coastline here of Peru. And I just think it's interesting how we have such similarities in the visual of the landscape. Now, like, in all seriousness, this could be a coincidence. Okay, it actually could be. But, you know, maybe it isn't. If these things, this is just a theory, so relax. But let's say these things are living underground, right? Which it seems like they might be. What if whatever they're doing underground, what if the energy source they use, what if like the activity that they're doing there has some kind of effect on the earth around it or the earth above it? I don't know. Because it does seem kind of weird to me that, like, especially when we look at the Google Earth here, that this like dense green vegetation just sort of hard stops like that. I mean, obviously it's probably got to stop somewhere, but I don't know. It's just a little bit strange. Might be nothing, but also could be something. So this episode that Jesse did was super interesting. I think these tridactyls are real. You know, whether they are like an actual alien, whether they're like an older form of human, I don't know. But the scans that we saw, I thought that part was super compelling. I think somewhere, this part here, like these things, like this, like, bro, don't come at me and tell me that's paper mache. Paper mache? What? Bro, again, if you're trying to tell me that this is paper mache, I think you're coping, and I think you are actually the conspiracy theorist. You think people are out here making paper mache aliens and going to the Peruvian government trying to like prove a point? You are the conspiracy theorist, I think, personally. It's just me. Okay, so let's talk about Peru. I will just lock this off so I don't keep moving it. Let's talk about Peru. Now, I've talked a little bit about Peru on my channel already. Specifically, this little island here. This little island is called Sangayan Island, or Ilha de Sangayan, if you want to say it not like a complete gringo. So this, there's a story around this island. Now, from what I understand, it's not publicly accessible anymore. But I covered this island where we had some witness testimony from a person who mysteriously was found strangled in his home after coming out and talking about it. But also I showed these photos, okay? So these were photos taken by witnesses in and around the coastline just here. So I'm juggling multiple things here, but okay, so these photos were taken pretty much like around here, okay? And there is testimony that comes along with it. I'll link the video for this. It's an old one. I actually watched it just the other day. It's kind of cringy to look back on, but it is what it is. And it's got the testimony of these photos, and it's got the testimony of the person who had an experience, a mass sighting experience here on Sangayan Island, with some kind of non-human intelligence. So there's this photo, which I think is super interesting. What you can see on the left was me trying to just sort of bring up the values and trying to get a clearer picture, because, I mean, not only is the photo quality not great, but the person doesn't know how to clean their camera lens, which is mildly annoying when I'm trying to do some analysis. And then there's this photo as well, okay? This one's probably worse. And there were two more photos that came with this package, which I got from UFOs Around the World, Matt, from TikTok. But the other ones are a bit more vague and unclear, so I didn't bother pulling them into this show. But okay, but this is just a little thing about Peru, okay? But that's obviously just one thing. So let's go to Nazca, because, you know, that's where these mummies are actually from. And it's just down the road, okay? Just go left at the roundabout and you're in Nazca. So here we are. Like I said, literally just down the road from this Sangayan Island where all of this weird shit happens. So just so you guys can see. You can see my mouse. Sangayan Island here. Yeah. Nazca. Not very far in the grand scheme of things, okay? And in Nazca, I think you can see these things with Google Earth, but it's going to be much clearer if I just show you. We get the Nazca lines, okay? So these are giant geoglyphs that are really only... No, I don't think they're only visible from an aerial view, but they're very big. I think if you're standing far enough back with enough elevation, you can probably see these things, but they're very big and they seem to depict like just various wildlife, various like maybe even like humans, aliens, astronauts, bugs, just super interesting things, right? And I have a bit of a theory about, I've kind of told you guys what I think, you know, if we put this in the same realm as crop circles, I think crop circles and the Nazca lines are far more likely to be something like a label. Like a label. Like someone who has the technology to be up high, moving very quickly, who can get around the earth very quickly and observes it from a higher vantage point consistently, would have labels to know where their crop is or where what is in what area. I don't know. Or even just like just a little label, like a sign. I don't know. That's just that makes more sense to me, right? Because when we see these totally complex crop circles pop up, they're clearly not meant for humans, okay? Humans can't get up and look at, well, they can in a plane, but like that's a very awkward way to deliver a message to someone. It's like saying to someone, hey bro, I wrote you a letter, but I put it on the top of a building, so you'll have to climb the stairs and go read it. Do you know what I mean? Like that's very inconvenient. I don't think the aliens would be trying to send us a message by drawing a giant crop circle that we don't even know what it means, okay? Alien graph, yeah, they're hitting trains now. They're hitting spots that, you know, people can only dream of reaching. So this is Nazca, right? But that's not it. That's not it. Okay, there's more. Actually, we'll leave the mummy up here because he's cool. How could we talk about Peru without mentioning Machu Picchu, right? Let's go to Machu Picchu together. I've always wanted to go, and now we can do it together. Again, not very far. Like, okay, a little bit further. But again, here, still in the same frame, you can see there is Sangayan Island, there is Nazca, and there is Machu Picchu, okay? These things are not far apart in the grand scheme of things. These things are not far apart. So, I mean, this place really needs like no introduction. You can see, look at the landscape that it's in. Like we're in the valleys. We are well above sea level here. And somehow people were able to do this. Now that's crazy because that rock is cut very precisely and these things are put together with no binding agent. Okay, there is no binding agent in these stones. They don't use cement, they don't use mortar. They just fit together perfectly. Now, you know, if you listen to Zahi Hawass, copper chisels are pretty powerful. So who knows? Maybe they just copper chiseled their way up the mountains with these blocks and then copper chiseled them all together and then just copper chiseled a whole advanced civilization up in these mountains. Who knows? Who knows? We'll get to Egypt soon. But, you know, I feel like if we're talking about Peru, Machu Picchu, the weird stuff around Sangayan Island, the Nazca mummies, the Nazca lions. I mean, I think Peru is like it's a sleeper. People are sleeping on Peru, and I think there is a lot more to this story. I don't have the answers. I'm not withholding them, but I just feel like there is a lot more to this story. Now, not quite Peru, but very close to the border. And if you're an old TikTok follower, you'll remember this one. The Atacama giant. The Atacama giant, which I didn't search correctly there. The Atacama giant is another geoglyph. Now, this is super close to the border. Now, we can literally see this one from Google Earth. That's how big it is, okay? Look at this thing. This is a massive geoglyph just outside of the border of Peru and Chile. Now, like I mentioned in my TikTok, there is a photo of the Pope in Chile wearing this symbol on his robes. Now, a lot of people say he's just paying respects to Chile, stop being a conspiracy theorist. Like, he's just paying respect. It was a gift from the indigenous people of Chile. Like, okay, I get that. I hear you, but you're missing the point. The point is, why is this thing so significant to the people here, to the indigenous tribes here, that it would go on the Pope's robes? And why would the Pope also be like, yeah, I'll wear that? I don't think if the Pope comes to Australia and we put emus on the robes, I don't think the Pope's going to rock an emu frock. Okay? So, you know, that one's open for interpretation. I don't know why it is, but the point is, it is. And that's interesting. The Pope's drippy. So look, I mean, look how far zoomed out we are. We can still see this thing. This, from memory, this thing is a little bit over 100 kilometers long. From memory. I could be wrong, but it's very big. We can see that. So let's stay in South America and let's go over to Brazil. Another place with a lot of strange stories that, you know, a lot of us probably know a few of them, but maybe there'll be a few that you don't know. Sorry, this whole 3D navigation isn't easy, but I'm doing my best. So let's start in familiar territory here. Let's start at Varginha, which is just on the coast. Just off the coast is probably a more accurate description, where this thing was seen. The little brown, stinky, oily, red-eyed alien. Multiple of them apparently crashed, or something happened in this city in Brazil in 1996, and basically a bunch of these things were on the loose. A small block in Varginha got cordoned off. All of a sudden, the military were all over the streets, and 3 young girls saw this thing face to face. And if you haven't seen the documentary Moment of Contact, I suggest you go and watch it because it covers this thing thoroughly. And there's footage of these girls going back to the exact same place, showing where they saw this thing nearly 30 years later. Okay, they're grown women now, and they still seem just as frightened and shocked, and they are sticking to their story 100%. And I trust that far more than I trust some CIA guy on a podcast or in front of Congress. Okay, I trust random people who stick to their story for 30 years who haven't gained anything other than ridicule far more than I trust some guy from the CIA trying to convince me about some weird shit. Okay, it hits a little harder for me personally. But again, this isn't the only thing here in Brazil. One of my favorites, I've covered this a few times, is not too far away in the state central to Brazil called Mato Grosso. And there is a town somewhere on the border here it is, called Barra de Garcas. And I apologize to my Portuguese viewers because I know I'm embarrassing myself and I'm butchering your language. I know. It's okay. It's part of the gig. Part of the gig. Barra de Garcas. This town is famous for, look, I don't want to say worshipping. I think celebrating. Celebrating is a far better word. This town is famous for celebrating green aliens with red eyes because I guess there is just so much lore in this place that they've built a UFO car park for them and they have a whole little like shrine area and it's like a tourist attraction in this city. So this is just a little clip from a video that I did on Barra de Garcas. Well, I didn't do the whole video on them, but the video was about how the American Air Force has red alien eyes on a lot of their badges. And on those badges, which, you know, we've covered this a lot in a video, maybe I'll link it below if I remember. In those badges, there is a dagger striking the middle of Brazil. And on the same badge, there is red alien eyes. And this all just feels a bit weird to me. Especially when you consider that in the Varginha case, where, you know, this red-eyed alien here was found, part of that story is the American military arrived very quickly and took whatever evidence, including one of the bodies that they had, into an aircraft, and went to, I don't know, probably Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. That's just my guess. I don't actually know, but I do know the American military came, and basically from that point on, the story is dead silent. However, James Fox is working on part 2 of Moment of Contact right now. It's maybe even done, and it's going to be coming out soon. So, and he said that's because there is a lot more of the story to be told now. So maybe he found something, maybe he has got more witness testimony. I don't know, but it sounds exciting because there's obviously something more to come of that. So let's get out of America because we've been here too long. And let's make our way let's go to Egypt. All right. Because we were just at Machu Picchu. Let's go to one of the other wonders of the world that was definitely built with copper chisels. Sorry, what are we doing? We're not going to Giza. Pyramids of Giza. Dean has thrown in £5. The Aramu Muru is a supposed portal caved in a rock near Lake Titicaca. That's interesting, Dean. I've actually been to Lake Titicaca. I had no idea about that. Very interesting. I saw some amazing places and things when I was in Central America. I backpacked through Central America in 2016 and went to Chichen Itza, went to Teotihuacan, went to Tikal, Lake Titicaca, went to some amazing places, and that part of the world is just honestly phenomenal. I would love to go back. My plans were to go to South America too, but ran out of money. Yep, ran out of money. What a shame. All right, here we go. The pyramids. Look at that. Look at these things, man. Look at these things, and obviously this is just Google Maps, but like, look at the houses. Look how small they are. Look how much I had to zoom in to just see a house. And like, these are buildings. These are buildings that many people could live in. Okay, now I'm going to stay at the same zoom and just move over to the pyramids. Okay, that raised ground has kind of killed that. But look, I mean, okay, look, let's just zoom out. Look, I mean, you can see it there. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous what copper chisels can do is what I'm trying to say. Because clearly, this was just done with a bit of hard work and a tough chisel. Amazing part of the world, right? And what's interesting is that this part of the world was actually part of what is known as Mesopotamia, or what was known as Mesopotamia. And Mesopotamia included a lot of interesting places, actually. It's where a lot of the stuff that we see kind of like related to like the Sumerians, the Anunnaki, You know, those pictures we see a lot of these sort of bird-headed figures with wings holding up the egg towards the tree of life. We know with the wristwatch and the basket, all of those things. These are all Mesopotamian figures, okay? And Mesopotamia stretched into Egypt as well, which is interesting. And then we've got these little lizard people figures here, which I maybe brought in a little bit prematurely. But I think, no, you know what? We'll just roll with it. These were found in Mesopotamia. There's an article for these too. And it's interesting that, you know, you've got these stories from the early 1900s that we saw earlier from tunnels underneath LA for lizard people. And you've got these lizard-looking statues here found in Mesopotamia where these amazing structures were built with copper chisels, of course. And in every creation story, we hear that there are intelligent serpent beings. Whether it's in Australia, and you've got like the rainbow serpent, whether you talk about Hinduism and the sort of, you know, Indian, Eastern sort of religions, you've got the Nagas. If you go back to America, Mesoamerican, you've got the Quetzalcoatl. You've got is it the Kukulkan? I think I'm saying that right. You've got these dragon, serpent, snake-like figures, and obviously the snake in the Bible in the Garden of Eden, right? They're everywhere. And there's even statues of them in Mesopotamia. Crazy stuff. Crazy, crazy stuff. What's also interesting about, you know, this is obviously a very significant place, right? Because we've got war breaking out all over this sort of stretch, first of all. But let's go to the Dome of the Rock in Israel. A very significant cultural and religious landmark, which doesn't show up in 3D, unfortunately. But if we sort of zoom out, when I work out how to do the 3D controls, if we zoom out quite a bit from Jerusalem, you can see that where we just were, which was in Egypt, in Cairo, it's just here. Okay, it's just here. Jerusalem, Dome of the Rock, just here. And then obviously down here and through here, you've got Mesopotamia. And, you know, you guys have heard me talk about the Aryan race that, you know, apparently Hitler was obsessed with, blonde hair, blue eyes. These Indo-Europeans, they were from like somewhere up here. And they migrated down this way. And some of them went to what is modern day Iran. And they started Zoroastrianism, like somewhere, you know, around here. I zoomed out a bit far there. And the others migrated over here to northwestern India, and they were essentially responsible for the Vedic texts there, which is where we hear about Vimanas, these flying machines, these chariots for the gods. Okay, this is all of this is coming from this part of the world. It's wild. It really is wild. But let's get back to the Dome of the Rock in Israel, because that is the where are we? That is the home of one of my favorite UFO videos. And if you've been around the block, if you've been a bit of a weirdo for a while, you've probably seen this one. So let's it's interesting, one, because it's just very clear footage of something anomalous happening, but it's also my favorite because it's a real shame that this won't load in 3D. It's also my favorite because there are multiple angles of it. I think, did I already say that? I don't know. We'll look at the footage in a sec. Lauren Pegg, you absolute freak. Thank you for becoming a member. I appreciate that support. Make sure you check out the members only content. Let's get some love hearts up for Lauren. So, all right. You guys can see the Dome of the Rock here. I'll try and shape it up a little bit better for you. There is footage. There's multiple footage that I believe is taken from up here somewhere. So you guys can see, it's obviously not very clear, but this is high elevation, right? And you can see there's a little photo spot here, which is usually a good indicator that this is a good lookout spot, right? And then here you can see the Dome of the Rock, which is not very hard. It's not very easy to make out in this flat surface. But that is the building that what you're about to see is happening over. And I believe that this footage is likely filmed from this vantage point, or at least one of the 4 videos is. So there you can see. That's the Dome of the Rock there, that building underneath it.
אתה רואה?
אני רואה מה זה.
And you can see it here.
תגיד, שתינו יותר מדי? לא, לא.
לא, לא, כולנו רואים את זה.
מה זה? 5 עיניים.
שיו!
יואו! רוד, בלין. מה זה?
מה זה, אמא?
מה זה?
Go one more time. Because I felt like that was a bit glitchy. We'll turn the volume down. I thought this was debunked. Yishai, I think what people need to realize is that whenever a real video comes out, it's going to be debunked. I think people need to understand this. Remember, this is the most covered up topic of all time. This topic has probably had the most money and resources invested in it, into keeping it a secret. If real footage leaks, it's going to be debunked, bro. Of course it is. Now, this is from 2011, and four videos of this thing surfaced online at the same time in 2011. Now, in 2011, the top of the line phone was like an iPhone 4. A lot of people weren't rocking iPhone 4s in 2011, okay? So I think this is probably like one of my top UFO videos personally. Yes, okay, people will say it's been debunked, but I just don't buy the debunk, because I think that intelligence agencies would have their hands in all kind of streaming platforms, all kind of social medias, and they would be looking at this stuff, and when things surface that puts the mission in danger, I'm sure they'd be able to debunk it. Josh, swear to God, I saw something like this in rural Queensland. I don't doubt it, brother. I do not doubt it. I think this is all far more like common than we realize. Josh, would you consider watching a bunch of Corridor Crew debunkings on stream? Yeah, I would actually. Yeah, I'd do that. Because I think, well, look, I only really know those guys from their debunking of the MH370 videos, and that was woeful. Like, you guys know, I come from a visual effects background, and I'm not trying to claim that I'm like some amazing visual effects artist, because I'm not, but I understand it at a basic level, but I also understand like the workflow and like the logical thinking and thought process behind making these kind of things. And the way that they debunked that MH370 video didn't even make sense from like a logical thinking perspective. It was very strange, and it felt like a paid propaganda piece, exactly like the video of Mr. Beast in Egypt. That was the most paid propaganda I've ever seen. Like, how many times in the video did they want to go, so you're telling me the aliens didn't build the pyramids? Whoa! Like, dude, please, put it away. Larissa Kellstrom has just gifted 5 memberships. That is extremely generous of you, Larissa. Thank you very much. I appreciate the support. If you were lucky enough to get one of those, make sure you use your manners. Make sure you say thank you. And if you don't know, to be eligible to even get a membership, you have to click the 3 dots and you have to enable it. Okay? You can't just be receiving gifts. You have to tell YouTube that you actually want gifts, right? Because it thinks that maybe you didn't want a free membership, because that's logical. And David has put in $10 and said, I love this channel. And David, I love you. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate the tenor. Very generous. So where are we? Where are we? Okay. One last thing before we leave this part of the world is, oh my God. Oh, okay. I actually missed the best part of Brazil. I missed the best part of Brazil. I'm an idiot. We'll finish up here and we'll backtrack very quickly. But let's go to Iraq. Also known once upon a time as Uruk, back when it was part of Mesopotamia. Iraq. Something was found in 2003 in Iraq that seems to have been of great interest to people in the American government and military. And that was the tomb of Gilgamesh. Now, Gilgamesh, I guess I'll say allegedly, was essentially like a hybrid giant, descended from the Nephilim. And in 2003, there was well, actually, look, I'll play the video because I've got a video here. 2003, there was a BBC headline. There was this article. Gilgamesh tomb believed to have been found. Archaeologists in Iraq believe they may have found the lost tomb of King Gilgamesh, the subject to the oldest Nephilim discovery. And then a FOIA request was made, and where it says requesting documents pertaining to the resurrection chamber of Gilgamesh, the location of his body, and the location of the buried Nephilim. That was written in a FOIA request. Okay? That was in a FOIA request. They're talking about descendants of the Nephilim. And this is apparently a picture of the tomb. I can't verify that. But what is interesting is this video that I'm sure some of you guys have seen is apparently, use your own critical thinking, I can't verify this, footage of Gilgamesh when they found him. And also, I'll just add in here that it was very close to this article being released, either before or after, that America invaded Iraq. Okay? America invaded Iraq, and from what I understand, where this place became a US military base. Like, wherever this tomb was became sectioned off and guarded by the US military. Now, I'm not saying the only reason America invaded Iraq was for the tomb of Gilgamesh, but it seems like it was very important to them. So this is only about 30 seconds. The actual video is much longer. I'll try and remember to link it in the description. But it's very interesting. This is old, like VHS, kind of grainy looking footage. And you can see what appears to be some kind of like darker toned skin with like a long ass beard. And, you know, there are questions of like, how could a body be this well preserved for this long? I don't know. I mean, the story is this is like descendant of like a human hybrid Nephilim. So who knows if they age differently to us. Some like interesting golden headdress thing. Again, I have no idea if this is real or not. It very well might not be. But at this point, nothing would surprise me. Nothing would surprise me either. But it's pretty eerie looking. It's pretty eerie looking, especially like when we pause it here. I mean, let's just like put aside our Mick West hats for a moment and think about like, imagine if this is real. Imagine if this is real. And we're looking at the face and body of like an ancient descendant of the Nephilim. And this is like a giant, by the way. This is like a large human. Like, that is wild. If it's true. If it's true. All right, now we were about to head over to my country, Australia, which again, let me just remind you guys, everywhere we've looked at so far kind of looks the same. Very desolate, very barren, very red. I mean, not so much the Dome of the Rock in Israel, but, you know, a lot of this weirdness, a lot of this strangeness seems to take place in very desolate areas. Desert-like, red dirt. What is that? Like, what actually is that? Again, it could just be coincidence. 5,618, but who knows? But let's go back to Brazil, which, to be fair, wasn't very desolate at all. Very green. Very green. Because I asked you guys to remember earlier, to put it in your back pocket, to remember the Hopi, remember the native people of the southern western region of North America, talking about the ant people, or talking about how if the man in the red hat and his purifiers aren't able to purify the land, these things are going to come up onto the ground from the west like ants, and they're going to do the job in a much rougher way. Well, let's take a look at this clip, because this is one of the most wild clips, really, I think there is. This is an interview that's in Portuguese, so you're going to need to pay attention. Okay, eyes here, please, eyes here, because you're going to have to read subtitles. Pay attention. This is a native Brazilian tribe. And I mean, I don't know the context for this interview. If anyone who speaks Portuguese is able to tell me, because these people have like full headdress and face paint on. So like, I don't know if they just got like teleported out of the Amazon, how they got here how do they even know what a podcast is? Because they look like straight out of the jungle. And they were shown a picture of a gray alien. And I mean, I'll let the video.
E alienígena não tem.
So he's asking this guy, are there aliens? And the native is like, what? Like, what the hell is an alien, bro?
Como?
Alienígena.
Alienígena? O que é?
Nunca, essa palavra você nunca ouviu falar? Alienígena.
Alienígena, não. Isso chama-se Mayushibu.
Isso aqui?
Sim.
Mancunawabu.
Mancunawabu.
So he's showing them a picture of a grey now. So he's just asked him, do you know what aliens are? And he's going like, bro, what? Like, I'm from the Amazon, dude. I don't, like, what are you talking about? And then he shows him a picture of a grey. And this guy's going, oh, the Mancunawabu. Yeah, this is the Mancunawabu.
Sério?
Mancunawabu. Mancunawabu é que mora debaixo da terra.
Eu falei, esse aí.
Que se virou...
It's the one who lives underground. Oh, obviously.
Que se virou formiga, hoje que nós chamamos Una. Que é
It's a big ant. It's a big ant that we call Mancunawabu. And the natives in the southwest of America talk about the ant people coming up from the ground to purify the land.
Uma formiga
I'm leaving.
grande, chama-se Mancunawabu.
Que essa formiga também é muito perigoso, né, Boina? Se as pessoas ficam mexendo com ela demais.
If this creature is very dangerous, if people mess with it, it takes a person's spirit underground.
Mas ela leva o espírito da pessoa para debaixo da terra também. Para voltar tem que ser pajé bem bom.
São seres que pode aparecer em luz divina, com a luz do
They can appear in the divine light of the Nishipan. The Nishipan, I've looked it up and I can't remember what it is. I'm pretty sure it is like some kind of like godly, like ethereal figure in their belief system. I could be wrong there, but I have looked it up before.
São seres que a gente pode ter o contato, que moram debaixo da terra.
So there you go. It's a quick one, but for me, that's crazy, bro. Like, that is crazy. You've got these people from straight out of the Amazon, literally still have their face paint and headdress on, being shown an alien and going, I don't know what that is, dude. Oh, no, I don't know what alien is. What is that? And then they go, the Mancunawabu. Oh, of course. The ant people. Yeah. Don't mess with them. Yep, they'll take your spirit underground. It's just second nature. Tommy Bird celebrating his 2 months. It's just routine for them. They know, now we know. Exactly. And that's what I find so interesting. And I really wish I pulled in the Credo Mutua clips here for this one, but I didn't. But some of you guys know Credo Mutua, African Zulu shaman, interviewed by David Icke in the 90s, talking about reptilian lizard-like people who control society kind of like from another dimension, like the Archons. And again, Credo Mutua, this Zulu African shaman, isn't trying to talk about spooky aliens, okay? He's just telling you like the culture of his people that has been passed down word to mouth for like hundreds and thousands of years. It's extremely interesting, yet when you come to the West, it's all just a funny trick and no, don't worry about that. Look, Men in Black, it's all just a funny movie. It's all just a funny movie about men in suits who arrive and wipe your memory while they protect you and hide the fact that aliens exist on this earth. That's just a funny movie, definitely not a documentary at all. Eva, I don't know I think I might have missed you. Welcome, you little weirdo. Thank you for joining the members club. Let's see some love for Eva. And now let's come to my home country, Australia. And what do you know? Another very barren red land. Again, it's a little bit of a trend. Now, I think a cool place to start here would be with, I think, something that a lot of people in the UFO space know about. But maybe I can tell you a little bit more about them. Hopefully. Actually, that's probably not going to bring it up. Oh, yes, it did. Cool. So we're going to go to the Kimberley region. This is the northwest of Australia, in the northern part of Western Australia. Okay. So this area that we can see here, we'll just zoom out again so you guys can see. This is what is known as the Kimberley region. And the Kimberley region is home to the Wandjina rocks, which I'm sure many of you guys are familiar with this because it gets passed around in the UFO circles quite a bit. Now, this is a slideshow from the presentation that I did at Astro SA last week, which was fantastic. Shout out to them for inviting me and having me there. But this is called Wandjina Rock. And the paintings on these rocks are of the Wandjina, okay? Which, now I think it's important to mention for some people who don't know, in Aboriginal culture, their, tribes are called mobs. And the mobs you can have hundreds of different mobs in in the area that we can see here on the map would likely have hundreds, okay? They're not broken up by like state or territory. It's all just kind of like in there. And I think it's important to point out that the Wandjina is like that is the name of the mobs in this Kimberley region, okay? That's what they refer to these beings as. And when they talk about the Wandjina, they are these sacred beings that exist beyond linear time in what the Aboriginals call the dream time. And the dream time is kind of like, it's kind of like a space that exists in between time is maybe like the best way to explain it. In another dimension is a far easier way to say it, and it fits the theme of the show. So in their belief system, the Wandjina were the creators of the land. They shaped the land and the sea and also the people as well. And they also have the ability to punish people. And that's why I think, you have not specifically just Aboriginals, but you have things like rain dancers, and they're trying to like appease these gods because they believe that these beings can control and manipulate the weather. And that when these people have perhaps been not acting in a favorable way, they'll be punished with, say, droughts or with floods or cyclones or whatever. And they believe the Wandjina are the ones who are responsible for this stuff. Now, what is interesting there is you can see I've put a little picture of a grey because the similarities are pretty striking, right? Now, this isn't like the mobs of the Kimberley region saying this. It's just me. And I could be wrong, but I think most of you would agree with me that they kind of look similar. They kind of look pretty similar. And these paintings are roughly 6,000 years old in these rocks in the Kimberley region. So there's that. Let's head over to somewhere else that I'm sure we're all quite familiar with. Let's go to Pine Gap, which is right in the middle of Australia. Literally couldn't be any more. If Australia was a dartboard, Pine Gap is literally the bullseye. Okay. Pretty good it's perfect as like a traffic control place for the universe, right? To monitor all the UFOs and stuff. So here we go. Here's Pine Gap. And so obvious that, wait, hang on. Okay. How obvious is it that this place is majority underground? Please spare me. But what's interesting about Pine Gap is that it is very close to a place called Mount Zeal. Now, Mount Zeal is one of the 4 mountains that remote viewer Pat Price in the 1970s said that he saw was home to aliens, which is a wild thing to say. But for anyone who doesn't know, remote viewer Pat Price in 1970s was basically the remote viewer at the time, was known for his extreme detail and accuracy in his psychic reports. And he would be tasked with things, usually by Dr. Hal Puthoff. But in his own time at home, he decided to go and look at, just do some exploring. And he said that he found 4 mountains around the world that had extraterrestrials in them, some of which had extraterrestrials working alongside what looked like humans, whether they were like our military or whether they were like an ancient version of humans, who knows, right? He gave this information to Hal Puthoff, and Hal Puthoff was kind of like, I don't know what to do with this. This is kind of crazy. I'll just put it over here for now. And then a few years later, when the remote viewing program grew into Project Stargate, Skip Atwater, I believe, tasked Joe McMoneagle, Ingo Swann, and maybe and a few others. I think even Lynn Buchanan was one, a bunch of other remote viewers with these coordinates. He didn't tell them what it was. He just said, here is your target. Let me know what you see. And obviously they're all separate, and they all came back saying, looks like a high-tech base, kind of alien-looking things, some with humans and some not. Okay, so and remember, this is the story we're being told by the CIA. That's important to remember. This is coming from the CIA. I do tend to believe in remote viewing because I do believe in ESP and psychic abilities, but also, your CIA. But it's interesting, right? It's very interesting. So it was Mount Zeal, it was Mount Hayes in Alaska, Mount Perdido in Spain, and Mount something in somewhere in Zimbabwe. I can't remember that one. Forgive me. But what is also interesting, right? So you just saw, okay, we can see in this screen right here, okay? So you guys can see my mouse. This is Mount Zeal, okay? It's massive. And by the way, in the indigenous culture, so the mobs that live around Alice Springs and around Mount Zeal is a very supernatural and spiritual place. I probably should have included that in the show today, but I didn't. But you can do your own research. It is a very interesting place, according to the mobs around here. And then here you can see Pine Gap. Wait, where did it go? I could see it a minute ago. Here, this is Pine Gap here, this little patch of land. So you can see Pine Gap, which is one of the most secret bases in the world, joint ran by Australia and the United States. United States do things there that Australians aren't even allowed to know about, which is kind of wild because it's our country. But that's fine. That's okay. Keep doing whatever you're doing and don't tell us. And bossing us around. That's okay. What's interesting is what Stephen Greer had to say about this. So you guys probably remember a while ago, Stephen Greer was doing the podcast circuit, and he kept waving around that big book that he says has been used to brief presidents, the unredacted version. But this is from the redacted version that you could purchase for a hefty sum if you so choose to do that. It says, Pine Gap. Actually, let's just get these a bit more up here. It says, Pine Gap and faked alien abductions. Pine Gap in Australia is understood to be a prime location for these covert UFO-UAP operations. This underground facility is similar to one located in the Chihuahua Desert. A physicist with whom Dr. Greer had met in Seattle years ago shared his experience. He was accompanied by security personnel for protection. He had been on helicopters that entered the Pine Gap facility, which, like the one in the Chihuahua Desert, is concealed by a hologram designed to resemble a mountainside. Upon landing on an elevator platform, the descent leads deep underground. During his time there, the physicist observed the creation of these entities, describing them as emerging from a conveyor belt, much like sausages, which I always think is such a hilarious comparison to use. These fake aliens are produced with advanced UFO-UAP craft, electronic warfare systems capable of affecting consciousness, and tools to render people unconscious or stunned. They also employ canisters of drugs to incapacitate those in the area. Now, as wild as this sounds, it actually makes sense. And I don't mean the sausages. I mean, we've heard from a lot of sources, even the 4chan whistleblower said that these craft and the beings in them are made to spec. They are made to spec for a certain reason, and the beings are made to interface with the craft. They work together. And they're purpose-made, and then it's like if they crash, if something goes wrong, it's kind of like, disposable. It's expendable. It's maybe annoying. You maybe have to go and retrieve your materials, but like it doesn't really matter because these aren't human. It's not human life being lost. And what else is interesting is the fact that electronic warfare systems capable of affecting people's consciousness, and that's a very broad term, but like we could be talking about messing with what people see, messing with how people feel, messing with people's thoughts. And I think all of these things are real, right? I mean, we know about like MK Ultra, Project Monarch, Montauk, like these things have been going on for a very long time. The Nazis were experimenting with this kind of shit pre-World War II. And then someone thought it would be a good idea to transplant all of the Nazis into America through Operation Paperclip. So obviously, all of their research continued somewhere in America. So the fact that there is technology that can affect your mind and your consciousness really isn't that wild to think. Now, also rendering people unconscious or stunned. We hear this in almost every single alien or UFO encounter. More so alien, actually. In fact, almost every single alien encounter, where people see these beings, whether they're greys, lizards, whatever. People see these things and they are just frozen, locked frozen. And it's not like, it's just like a total paralysis. The only thing that can move is your eyes. You hear this in abduction cases when people say that they wake up on a table. The only thing that can ever move is their eyes. And this is the case almost every single time in these cases, right? So that's interesting. You've got Mount Zeal, the home of aliens, and you've got Pine Gap just up the road, which is almost definitely entirely underground. I think what you see in Pine Gap is if you think Pine Gap, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Okay, I've lost it. If you think Pine Gap is just what you can see on the surface, you probably think Epstein lived in that little blue and white hut on his island. Okay? If you think Pine Gap is what you see on the surface, you probably think that little blue hut had Epstein's bed and his little kitchen and his little TV in there as well. All right? Wake up to yourself. So let's stay in Australia and keep moving here because there's plenty more. Now, this is an interesting one. I've been wanting to show this on the channel for a long time, and I've just never really found the right time to do it. But today's the perfect time. And it's in my home state. This is in South Australia. And this is another geoglyph. Another geoglyph called the Marree Man. Look at this. Look at this. This is called the Marree Man. And this was discovered in 1998. Now, if we just zoom out here, like just to kind of give you guys perspective on this thing, okay? This is where we are. There's Australia. Zooming in on South Australia here. Coming right in. And again, very red, very desert, very barren. Just like all the other places with weird shit going on. And if we come all the way in, for some reason, you have this picture here of what only I could describe as like, it looks like a tribal person throwing a boomerang. Because look at this. Like, what else could that be? Or a stick, maybe? I mean, yeah, it doesn't really look like a boomerang shape. I guess I'm just jumping to that conclusion because the indigenous in this area would have used a boomerang. That would have been the weapon of choice rather than a small club. But who knows? I could be wrong. But what's interesting is this thing was found in 1998 by a pilot who just happened to be flying over this area and was like, that's weird. That's a giant person. And again, 1998, I think GPSs were probably invented. I don't think they were like, you know, out in everyone's planes and cars. You know, it is very interesting, right? And what's also interesting is these lines that you can see. Just to give you guys some scale, these lines, when they were found, were 30 centimeters deep and 35 meters wide. Now, that's 115 feet in freedom units. Okay? 115 feet wide or 35 meters wide, but 30 centimeters deep. And this is a big geoglyph. Is it a label? Is it a label? Is it a label to let people know, you know, what's in this area? I don't know. It could just be a coincidence. Again, 7,341. But, you know, when you start collecting all of these coincidences, it starts to feel like if you're trying to write them all off as coincidences, you become the conspiracy theorist, right? There's no easy way out of this. Unfortunately, I'm sorry. I don't make the rules. I just follow them and I preach them. And I guess it would be remiss there's not really much to show here, but for those of you who don't know, you've maybe heard about it. In fact, I mean, I did a video the other day talking about the giant UFO that was buried, and I mean, I've done a lot of videos on it, mainly from Ross Coulthart talking about it, but just the other day, an ex-BBC journalist named Money Penny came out and spoke about it. I covered what she had to say. I don't think she was onto the same thing as Ross Coulthart, but she appreciated my feedback, which I appreciated because, you know, I kind of like, I wouldn't say I roasted her. I was kind. I'm always kind. But I think she had a few flaws in her argument and in her delivery, and I made that clear. And she actually received it really well and was like thankful for what I said. So fair play to Penny. Like, a lot of people would hear me kind of having a dig at her and then get upset about it. So fair play to her. But after that, what's interesting is Jon Stewart, I guess the guy who's mainly known for the alien interview, started tweeting at me and tweeting about the giant UFO that he knew the answers of this thing. Now, he messaged me. I replied to him, just saying thank you. He said he was a fan of the show, which is wild to me, right? Whenever these people who I've like watched reach out to me and say like they watch my show, I'm just like, bro, that's crazy. Don't you have more important things to do? But anyway, I said thank you. He never replied, which is fine. There was no real need for a reply. But he kept sort of tweeting. He made a tweet saying that like he messaged me, and then like when I didn't reply, he suddenly got all these like emails with people from S4. I don't know if he was like alluding to me being a plant. Wouldn't be the first time. Maybe he's right. Who knows? But that was kind of weird. But anyway, what it all felt like to me when that happened was, I felt like I was like, Money Penny started talking about it more. Now Jon Stewart's talking about it. It felt like, and tweeting at me, it kind of felt like I was being baited into doing a video on what they had to say. If I'm being completely honest, I could be wrong, but it felt like they were trying to get me to like cover the things that they were saying. And that's why I haven't touched it since then. Now, what Jon Stewart said was kind of interesting, but do I, you know, like it's all just talk really at the end of the day. And I don't really like, I don't like farming the same topic over and over unless it really feels like there's a reason to. But I'm not going to farm the same topic in a video over and over if I can't bring something new to the table in the following video, right? I'm not just going to milk it for content, because I make content when I'm genuinely excited or interested in something. And when I make a video about a giant UFO and it kind of goes a little bit viral, and then all of a sudden all these people are tweeting about the giant UFO, I'm not just going to make another video jumping on everyone's story, okay? That's just like that's just like low effort content in my opinion. And I'm not about it. I'm not about it. But we're on a stream right now, and I'll just cover what he said. He basically said he got told that a giant UFO crashed. May not be the same one. Maybe. Could be multiple of these things. And it broke up over and in Woomera. Now, okay, let's just zoom in on Woomera, right? You guys have probably heard Woomera. Reese, who's been on the channel a few times, does some great work on Woomera. His grandfather ran this test range for a period of time. I will say in a period of time that was just saturated in UFO sightings, maybe even some beings being sighted, a whole bunch of strangeness, nuclear testing. But look, there you go. This is Woomera. At least, look, that's the town of Woomera. Not much there. Not much going on in general in this part of the world. There's Woomera Airfield. But if we zoom out, right? Again, just keep your eye on Woomera here, because that's where the town was. Okay? Keep your eye on that. That's where the town was. We need to keep going. We still need to keep going. Okay, so you can barely see the town now. Now, you're going to have to watch my cursor. I'm going to try and give you a rough outline of how big Woomera actually is. Okay? So, Woomera starts about here, and it basically goes up here like this. It comes right up sort of just before Kupapiti, and then it comes up again, and it basically kind of like, we can basically use the edge of this lighter area as a border. it kind of goes up through here and it spreads right across. It's basically like 30% of South Australia, and it comes all the way down here and wraps back to Woomera. All of this is, I mean, different sections of it are classified at different levels on like how restricted it is, but all of it is like classified military test range. And they did a lot of weird things here in terms of testing. I've heard a lot of stories personally about people being up and around this area and seeing very strange things in the sky. And again, for those of you who aren't from Australia, just to give you the comparison once again. So Woomera comes right up here and it kind of, you know, cuts off somewhere just below the border here of the Northern Territory. And if you just come over the border a little bit to the Northern Territory, you have somewhere, where is it? You have Alice Springs, okay? And then suddenly we're at Mount Zeal and we're at Pine Gap. And we're at Ayers Rock. Let's go to Ayers Rock while we're here because, you know, look, there might be a prosaic explanation for this thing. And, you know, I'm not going to try and say there isn't. But what the fuck is this thing? Like, seriously, what the actual fuck is this? This, like, for those of you who don't know, this thing is taller than the Eiffel Tower, okay? This thing is taller than the Eiffel Tower. And I don't know how wide or how long it is off the top of my head, but it's huge, okay? And look at the surrounding desert. It's just flat. It's only flat in every... Okay, there's a little hill over there, my mistake. But it's basically just flat in every direction. And then, for some reason, you have a giant rock. Now, look, am I trying to say that this is a hidden space ark about to take everybody to the Lyran star system? No. No, I'm not. I'm not saying that. Maybe some of you were thinking that, but I'm not saying that. But it could be, because I can't prove it otherwise. But look, all I actually do know is that it's very, it's an anomaly. It's very interesting. It's very significant to the people, to the mobs that live around this area. And it's just another notch to the amount of strange things that belong to this part of the world. And another notch to the strange things that seem to be steeped in red dirt in desolate desert areas of the world. All of these places, well, not all of them. Brazil is very rich and lush, but you've got the big red outback of Australia. You've got the deserts around Egypt and the you know, what was once Mesopotamia, Israel, Iraq, Iran, all of these places. You've got the southwest of America. Sorry, you've got Peru, the coastline of Peru, Chile, same kind of landscape, or same kind of soil. And then you've got the southwest of America, which is extremely red and a very interesting place, all of which are steeped in mystery, steeped in story, ancient lore that dates back a long, long time, and stories that have been told by indigenous cultures that for some reason in the West, we have been made to believe that they are just fairy tales. But we've really never been exclusively told that, though, have we? It just seems like we kind of grow up with so much distraction and so much bullshit in our lives that it's like almost the perfect amount for us to like not even have the capacity to pay attention to what is going on in those teachings and in those circles unless you're brought up in it. And I can't help but feel like that's done by design. 3535 Farm has chucked in $10 and says Whitley Strieber's new YouTube video, a photo of him at Contact in the Desert has a color spirit image of Mac toners in it too. He died in 2009. Mac wants the Cryptoterrestrials book read. A photo taken of him at Contact in the Desert has a color spirit image. I understand what you've written in terms of I understand the English language and I can put the words together, but I don't quite understand what you're saying. So, but it sounds like you're talking about a photo. please put it in Discord and I'll check it out because it sounds interesting. The sticker reveal. Kat Simpson, I actually forgot to organize that, unfortunately. Yep. Guys, you guys know I've been collecting the conspiracy decks for a long time now, and we've actually got a new one. It's a good one too. I'm very proud of this one, but I forgot to prepare it. I apologize. But we will likely be live again Sunday morning. Yep, Sunday morning my time. I'll try and be live. Don't know what we'll be doing yet, but I'm sure we'll work it out. But thank you guys for hanging out today. I hope you enjoyed that little deep dive. Suki's asleep. She clearly didn't enjoy it too much, but that's okay. But thank you guys for hanging out. I hope you learned something. I hope you found it interesting. And I hope you now also think that aliens live underground, because after all of that, it just can't all be a coincidence, right? Thank you. Be good. Take care. See you tomorrow.
Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on?
No matter how far you go into the dark, when you flip, you go exactly the same place to the light in our galaxy. Everything. Because everything is in balance. Everything is a polarity.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is.